It's 11:14 on a Sunday night, and you're back in bed. It's doing the numbers again. Nothing went wrong today. Nothing at all. But there you are, staring at the ceiling, replaying the same calculation you ran last Sunday and the Sunday before that. Mortgage, car payment, student loans, groceries. Trying to figure out if this is finally the month you get ahead, or if you're just going to stay stuck again like you have been for 3 years. Deep down, you already know the answer. You've known it for a while, but you keep doing the math anyway, because the alternative is worse. The alternative is accepting that this feeling might just be what life is now. Meanwhile, your neighbor, same street, bought around the same time, similar house, not earning wildly more than you, woke up last Tuesday and decided not to work that week. No emergency. No long email to his boss. He just didn't feel like going in, so he didn't. And here's the part that doesn't make sense. He's not richer than you. Just stop running that math. My name is Nick, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time thinking about why two people with nearly identical lives can end up living completely different realities. Today, we're diving into something the personal finance world barely explains: what really happens to your money, your career, your mindset, and your actual life the moment you make that final mortgage payment. And by the end of this, that Sunday night math you keep running is going to look completely different. Because here's the truth. No one tells you when you're 12 years into a 30-year mortgage. You don't just eliminate a bill when it's paid off. You eliminate a sentence. 1. You stopped realizing you were serving. Let's start with the numbers, because the reality here is harsher than most people think, in both directions. The average monthly mortgage payment in 2025 reached $2,329, and that's just principal and interest, nothing else. If you bought recently or refinanced at current rates, $2,845 is closer to what you're actually paying. Now compare that to income. The median American household brings home about $5,400 a month after taxes, Social Security, and Medicare. That means a standard mortgage is eating up 43% of your take-home pay. Before you've bought a single grocery item or paid for a car, 43%. Every financial expert on the planet agrees the safe limit is 28%. So most people with a mortgage are walking around 15 percentage points over the limit. Every single month, for 30 years. Congratulations, you're a functioning adult. You also signed up to be financially squeezed in slow motion until you're 63. Now let's make this real. Meet the Garcias. 2 incomes, combined $110,000 a year. Sounds solid until you break it down. After federal taxes, state taxes, FICA, and a modest 401k contribution, they're taking home around $6,800 a month. Now watch how fast that disappears. Mortgage on their $380,000 home, $2,400. Property taxes, $380. Homeowner's insurance, $200. Maintenance reserve because the HVAC doesn't care that it's December, $320. That's $3,300 a month. Just to legally live in the house. They've got $3,500 left. So car payments, because both commute, $800. Car insurance, $240. Gas, because nothing is walkable, $280. Student loans, because college wasn't free, $550. Health insurance partially covered by work, $380. Groceries for 2 adults trying to eat like adults, $700. Utilities, electricity, gas, water, internet, phones, $420. Now they're down to $130, and we haven't even talked about clothes. Kids' activities, at $80 urgent care copay from last month, the dog that just started limping, any real savings, any real retirement beyond that small 401k, or anything that even resembles fun? The Garcias aren't reckless. They don't own a boat. They've never been to Europe. They did everything right, and yet, every decision they make, every career move, every request for flexibility, every thought about going back to school or starting something new gets filtered through one silent question: can we still cover the mortgage? That question runs in the background of their life, like a tab they can never close, until one day it finally disappears. And when it does, something happens that they can barely imagine right now. They start making completely different decisions. We'll come back to them. First, let's talk about what actually changes when the mortgage is gone, because people get this wrong all the time. Some underestimate it. Others think they'll suddenly have way more cash than they actually will. When the mortgage disappears, you don't get the full payment back. Property taxes, insurance, and maintenance don't go away. On a $400,000 home, that's still about $838 a month in ongoing costs.
Oh.
So if your payment was $2,845, you're not freeing up $2,845. You're freeing up about $2,000 a month. Real, usable money. And that number is powerful. If you invest that $2,000 into a basic S&P 500 index fund, earning around 8% annually, here's what happens. In 5 years, $146,000. In 10 years, $365,000. In 15 years, $693,000. In 20 years, $1,177,000. You contributed $480,000. The market added $697,000, more than you put in yourself. Meaning most of your wealth didn't come from working harder, it came from time and compounding. And this is the part nobody tells you when you're signing that 30-year mortgage. They're not going to say their product might be standing between you and $1.1 million. Of course they won't. Now, before we go further, let's address the argument already forming in your head. If my mortgage rate is below 5%, shouldn't I invest instead of paying it off early? And yes, mathematically, that argument is valid. Professor Michael Roberts analyzed a $500,000 mortgage at 3% and found that investing extra money outperformed early payoff in about 95% of 30-year periods. The logic is simple. 3% guaranteed return from paying off debt versus roughly 8% from the stock market. Right now, about 82% of mortgage holders have rates below 5%. So, on paper, investing wins. But here's what the spreadsheet ignores. It assumes you'll actually invest the difference. Most people don't. They spend it. The mortgage acted like forced savings. Once it's gone, that money quietly turns into lifestyle upgrades. It disappears within 18 months. It also assumes you can handle watching your investments drop 40% during a crash, while still owing $2,500 every month on your house. That's very different from watching a drop when your home is fully paid off. One situation is stressful, the other pushes people into bad decisions. And there's one more thing the invest the difference crowd rarely mentions. You've been making every financial decision of your adult life while carrying debt. Research shows debt reduces cognitive performance. So you've been making this decision while mentally under pressure? That matters. At rates above 7%, aggressive payoff becomes very competitive. Between 4.5% and 7%, it's a real judgment call. Below 4.5%, investing makes sense, but only if you actually do it. The real answer isn't just math. It's knowing yourself. Now let's go deeper, because this is where it gets serious. A 2019 study found that when people completely eliminated debt, anxiety dropped from 78% to 53%. That's a 25-point drop in clinical anxiety. Not small, massive. People didn't just feel better, they performed better. They became less impulsive, better at long-term decisions. But the most surprising part? Closing accounts mattered more than reducing balances. Closing a $3,000 credit card improved mental health more than partially paying off $5,000. Your brain doesn't care about the amount. It cares about whether the tab is still open. And for most people, the mortgage is the final tab. It's the last background noise. When it finally closes, it's like a constant hum suddenly stops. And your body notices too. Higher debt levels are linked to higher blood pressure, more depression, and worse overall health. This isn't just financial, it's physical. Now here's where everything shifts. If the Garcias pay off their mortgage at year 22 instead of 30, their monthly expenses drop by $2,000. That's $24,000 a year. Using standard financial independence math, that lowers their required wealth by $600,000. They didn't earn more, they didn't get promoted, they just made life cheaper. And that changes everything. They're not trapped. Mrs. Garcia can take a more meaningful job with slightly lower pay. Mr. Garcia can finally start the business he's been thinking about since 2021. They're not richer, but their choices are. Because the math changed. Let's be real for a second, though. A paid-off house isn't free. Property taxes are still there. up 27% since 2019. In some states, that's $743 a month. Insurance is up 52% since 2020. Maintenance still costs about 1% of the home's value, nearly $333 a month on a $400,000 home total. Around $838 monthly, even with no mortgage. Closer to $1,300 in high-tax areas. So no, you don't get the full $2,845 back. You get about $2,000, but that $2,000 is life-changing. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. About 40% of us homes are mortgage-free. Sounds great, till you realize most of those owners are over 65. Less than 28% of working-age homeowners are mortgage-free. It's the average payoff age. It's 58 to 63. First-time buyers now average 36, which means a 30-year mortgage ends at 66, and it gets worse. In 1989, only 3% of people over 80 had a mortgage. Today, nearly one-third do. Debt is following people into retirement like never before, and only 23% of Americans are completely debt-free. That silence people feel when they finish paying off their mortgage? Now, how do you get there faster? On a $450,000 mortgage at 6.5%, your payment is $2,844. Total interest over 30 years, $573,840. More than the house itself. Bi-weekly payments, paying half every 2 weeks, creates 13 full payments a year instead of 12. That alone cuts 5-6 years off and saves $119,000. One extra payment per year. Same savings. Add $500 monthly. Cuts about 8 years and saves $150,000. Add $1,000 monthly. You nearly cut the loan to 17 years. These aren't extreme sacrifices. They're the difference between freedom at 55 or waiting until 63. So what happens when you finally make that last payment? First, confirm the lien is released and you receive your deed. Boring, but critical. Second, rebuild your emergency fund. 6 to 12 months of expenses. Then deploy the money smartly. 401k match first. Roth IRA. $7,000 in 2025. Max the 401k. $23,500. HSA if eligible. Then invest the rest. At $2,000 a month and 8%, you hit $365,000 in 10 years and $1.17 million in 20. Not because you did anything special, because you removed the barrier. Here's the real takeaway. The mortgage wasn't just a bill, it was permission. Every decision had to pass through it. Want to quit your job? Check the mortgage. Start something risky. Check the mortgage. Take a pay cut for something meaningful. You can't because of the mortgage. It quietly shaped your life. And when it's gone, that grip disappears. That's what the Garcias discover at year 22. That's what everyone feels. Not instant wealth, but real freedom. So that Sunday night math you keep running, you won't run it forever? But the people who stop running it first aren't the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who understood what freedom was worth and moved toward it on purpose.